All right. Welcome in everybody to a new episode, a new segment called Grateful Sunday here on the Made New Project, where we just kind of get other people's opinions on what they're grateful for in this life, in this day, in this week, in this moment. I shed my light on what these people have shared and also just read the word a little bit and give some insight on what I'm grateful for. So, to start today, I'd like to open with a little piece of the word. It is Sunday, it is the great worship day, the Sabbath for most people. So, I wasn't able to attend church this morning. I had to work from 8 to noon and then, work on my small business until about 3 o'clock. So, here we are recording, getting it done, but I did get some word in this morning, and I want to show why I'm grateful for the word and why I'm grateful for others who have come before us to interpret the word, because what I read today was impactful, and I have insight on what I think that it meant. And then here in my MacArthur Study Bible, as you see, this has been absolutely monumental to me being able to learn more about interpretations of the word, and how to read the Bible and study. It's been absolutely fantastic. But this gives a completely different version of how I interpreted these verses today. So let's read them, and then I will give you what I thought of them, and then what the MacArthur Study Bible says. So pretty funny when I looked into it to take notes, and I thought I had an understanding, and I was incorrect. So we're here in the Gospel of John, and we're reading chapter 11. So chapter 11, about halfway through verse 9, says, this is Jesus speaking. If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble, because he sees the light of this world. But if anyone walks in the night, he stumbles, because the light is not in him. So this is pretty cool. I really like this verse, and immediately it spoke to me. Those who walk in the day are in the light. And how I thought of this is those who believe in Jesus Christ, those who believe in the Word, those who believe the Holy Spirit is within them and feel saved by the grace of God through faith. If you walk in the light, you will not stumble, you will not fail, you cannot fail, because God has you. You have seen and you believe, and you're a follower of Christ. And then anyone who walks in the dark, it says, will stumble. So I thought of that as somebody who may not be a believer yet, or never was a believer, or maybe fall in their lifetime and go to the below. And I really thought that I really nailed this interpretation, and maybe it just is a different interpretation, but the MacArthur Study Bible has something completely different. But that's how I thought of it, is those who walk with faith in Jesus and believe in God and believe in the Word, we can't fail. We will not stumble. And even in failure, we learn the lesson, and it's part of God's plan. But those of us who do not believe, can stumble. And I believe in my past life, before I was a believer of Christ, there was many times where I was lost and I stumbled, and I had nothing to fall back to. And now I do, and that is the Word. But let's get the interpretation that the MacArthur Study Bible has, because it's completely different than what I just said, although I like what I just said. So it says right here in the notes, during the light of the sun, most people did their work safely. When darkness came, they stopped. The proverbial saying, however, had a deeper meaning. As long as the Son, Jesus Christ, S-O-N, performed his Father's will, an example, during the daylight period of his ministry when he is able to work, he was safe, not stumbling. The time would soon come, nighttime, when, by God's design, his earthly work would end and he would stumble in death. Jesus was stressing that as long as he was on earth doing God's will, even at this late time in his ministry, he would safely complete God's purpose. So that's just a different interpretation. And I don't really, I hate to sit here and say that I was wrong, because I like the way that I interpreted it, but maybe I was wrong. But what this is saying, that is, as Jesus was on earth, he will complete the tasks that God has set forward in him. And that's pretty cool, and talking about his stumble is nighttime and death. So it's talking about while Jesus is here, we are in the light, and he will perform works. And then when his death comes, he will stumble. And so as long as he's on earth doing God's will. Even at the late time in his ministry, he would safely complete God's purpose. So, like I said, impactful in both ways, two different interpretations for sure. And I'm happy to have something like this, a Bible to study off of, and so that I'm not misinterpreting. And in an instance like this, I think that maybe both interpretations can be used and be impactful, although they are different. So that's just what I got out of that today. I really read in the mornings as much as I can, and try to find impact in the Word each day. So it's been absolutely fantastic. So moving into the segment, Grateful Sunday, I was having some thoughts on this today and what I'm grateful for, and there's so many things that I'm grateful for. And one of the things that stuck out, and that I think a lot of people say is, hey, I'm grateful to breathe, grateful to be alive today. And I think that that's great. I just kind of thought of it a little bit differently today, whereas I'm grateful for my breath, the breath that I take, each breath that I take, what breath is, what breathing is, the healing of breathing, the importance of cardiovascular fitness and health. And I was thinking, breath, CPR is something that people perform to save lives. And you actually can breathe your life, or breathe life into somebody else using compressions and your breath, a life-saving thing you can do with your breath. And I thought, how grateful are we that as human beings, we have a capability to save somebody else's life using our breath to give them breath and give them life back. That is so insane to me when I started thinking about that, and how important breath is, and how important it is to have good breathing and be healthy and have a sturdy cardiovascular system. So then I was thinking how grateful I was to be fit, and that God's given me grace to be healthy and uninjured without disease, and it's multiple different things. But I'm rarely labored in my breathing when just conducting regular daily activities, where not everybody has that kind of fortune. And so I think it's so important, and this is why cardiovascular exercise can be so important, is just so you don't feel out of breath. And that's even metaphorically out of breath in this life, overwhelmed. And I think that when you're in shape mentally and physically and spiritually, it breathes life into you in all of these aspects. The Word gives me life, being able to push myself mentally, whether that's studying or in a puzzle or chess, and these are things that I enjoy. I get life out of that, and I think of that as breath, and then physically, of course, I'm a runner. I work out a lot, and that makes it easier for me to breathe just on a daily basis, just doing regular things. And I think that is really important, and it's something to be grateful for, is just your breath, your breathing exercises is something else I thought about today, and how people use breath work. And I've done a little bit of that box breathing. I think you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, let out for 4 seconds, repeat this process for a few minutes, and you can feel revitalized, energized. And I know that sometimes when I first get into the gym and I'll get in the sauna or I'm stretching, I'll just take some time to sit back or lay down and just breathe and just fill my lungs with air and fill them with life, and then release. And I get so much relaxation out of that. It's like a meditation, and you see, monks use meditation and breathing exercises, and some of the most peaceful people on this earth. So that's just something that I wanted to really expand upon when I was thinking, and I didn't study anything, and I'd rather be more shoot from the hip, if I was to say myself. So breath, I'm grateful to breathe, of course, be alive, but so many different aspects that I just covered was something that I wanted to hit on today. And maybe not everybody's thought of it in that perspective. Sometimes maybe I sound a little bit crazy too, because sometimes my mind it gets a little wild, and it gets deeper than it needs to sometimes. So I could just be rambling on about things that mean nothing. But that's just what I thought of today. Or, my dog is sleeping right here next to me on the couch. I would show you guys, but I don't want to disturb her or embarrass her. But just watching her breathe um, brings me peace sometimes, just knowing that like she's relaxed, she is happy, and she's just breathing. And that's how strong breathing is too. And mentally, we can breathe while sleeping. We can't do anything else while we're sleeping, but we can breathe. And that's pretty neat when we think about it. That's pretty neat. So let's get into some responses today. I asked the question on my Instagram story, and I'll continue to do this every week. What are you grateful for? And I told everybody that their responses would be on this podcast today, the show today. And I'd like to see what everybody had to say. I think some of these are serious and some of them might not be, and I'll try to expand on them just a little bit. So that's the goal. So starting here, we have Cameron Edwards. A healthy body that allows me to break down muscle fibers every day to get stronger. Yeah, with a little crying, laughing emoji. So Cameron Edwards, she must be talking about how hard she works, being able to break down her body is healthy enough to break down those muscle fibers, to work hard so that she can become stronger in her own body, in the body that God's given her. So that's really powerful, and that's something to absolutely be grateful for, and something that I'm also grateful for, breaking down those muscle fibers. People don't think of it like that, but when you lift or when you run, that soreness or that pump that you get, that's those muscle fibers stretching and tearing. And then that's why we put protein into our bodies afterwards, so that those muscle fibers can absorb those proteins and then build muscles, recover, and then build muscles on top of whatever you have already built. So continuing to do that over and over again builds strength, not only physically, but then mentally and emotionally, where you feel strong, you feel fit, you have confidence. I think all those things are really important and something to be grateful for. We have Chandler 2, grateful for life and the health the Lord has blessed me with, grateful for family and friends. Yeah, I think we've talked a little bit about being grateful for life. Of course, I think we all are, although we lose sight of it often, including myself, of course, and honestly, traffic is probably one of the biggest culprits of me losing my my outlook on gratefulness for life. Like in traffic, I get frustrated every single time. So I got to find a method. If anybody has a method or a tip, practical exercise that I can use to be less frustrated when in traffic, I would love to hear it, because I need some help. And he says, and health the Lord has blessed me with, and then grateful for family and friends. Yeah. How important is it to have people around you that support you, that love you, that take care of you, that you trust, and hopefully they trust you as well. But man, we go through family and friends, and your family, it's funny because they are like friends. You just share DNA. They're friends that you share DNA with. I was thinking about that just now. And there's nothing else that makes them different than anybody else besides that, and that's pretty neat. And they never go away for the most part. We all have little rifts and such, but your family's always going to be there. You share DNA, you share last names, you share bonds that you don't with just your regular friends. So family's so important. And my girlfriend Molly, she is so close with her family, and she's always reminding me how important family is. And not that I'm somebody who doesn't think it's important, but sometimes I can lose sight of how important it is and those connections. And Molly's really good at reeling me back in and letting me know how important that those people are and how much strength you can get from that. And so I'm grateful for her in that aspect as well. And then Chandler, of course, mentions friends. Our friends, my friends are probably some of the people I trust the most, and people that I confide in, and people that I hope confide in me and feel safe, doing so, because I know that it can be hard to trust people, but your friends, if you truly call somebody your friend, and you're grateful for these people, I think that you should be able to trust them with almost anything, And I think the more that you trust your friends with maybe your hardships or your struggles, the more they might open up with you, and you can help each other. And I think that that's really important, is being able to help each other, And sometimes it can be one-sided, but the more we open up, the more vulnerable we are with these people, with each other, the stronger our relationships get, and the easier it'll be to move through some of these things. I know that in my past, trying to handle things on my own has always been the hardest. And when I have other people helping me out, it seems to go easier when I trust and trust my friends and my family. So thank you for that, Chandler. Chandler also adds another comment here. Also for you, documenting your journey inspired me to try harder in everything I do. Well, thank you, Chandler. I hope you continue. Chandler hit me up today, and we're gonna get a run in soon. So it's Chandler, somebody that I used to play cornhole with. We used to drink some beers together, and I no longer drink. Chandler no longer plays cornhole, and but obviously I'm running, and Chandler's, he's starting a family, which is absolutely incredible. I see him in the gym sometimes at 5 a.m. now. It's funny how we went from doing cornhole and drinking to now we see each other in the gym, and we're going to start running a little bit together, and he's starting a family, and that's just absolutely amazing for him and his family, and I'm praying for them and wishing them all the blessings. So Chandler, yeah, it's I appreciate those kind words, and just keep hammering, man. Like, that's the thing. And I know Cam Hanes says that, and I just love that saying, keep hammering, like just keep working hard. And that's what he's talking about doing. Chandler's talking about working harder in everything he does. And I don't care where you derive inspiration from. It shouldn't be from me. I'm just doing my thing and documenting it a little bit. But get inspiration from yourself. Be grateful for who you are and that hard work you're putting in. So thank you for those comments, Chandler. Doug Moore, 51, my boy Doug, says he's grateful for God's grace. Yeah, the grace of God. I'll get emotional if I think about this too much sometimes, and because I feel so undeserving of it. And I don't, as a human being, I don't understand how God can be so good to us, and how he can forgive us, and how he knows, where we've been, what we've done, how we think, but continues to choose us and love us over and over again. And how lucky we are. And I'm glad that Doug said, used it as something he's grateful for. I wish there were words that could explain how powerful it feels to know that God loves me and all of us all the time, no matter what. In our darkest moments, when we are our worst, when we turn our back on him, the years that I didn't have him at all, and he was still there, looking out for me, waiting for me. And then when I came to him, he he was so good to me, and I didn't deserve that. I don't, but that's what God's grace is that it doesn't matter if I deserved it or not. He 100% grace all the time. And I just, all the time, this comes across my mind of why I keep getting the good stuff and keep getting blessed. And because I'm so far from perfect, and I've been through some rough times, and I've chose to do the wrong thing a lot, and he still loves me, and gosh, it's just it's something I think about a lot. So thank you, Doug. Island Running says your mustache ... Oh wait, okay, that's funny. Yeah, I don't have a mustache anymore. People were in an uproar about this, folks. I received multiple messages about me not having a mustache anymore. Shaved it shortly after Cocodona 250, and I just was ready for a little bit of a change. I've had a mustache for about 3 years or so, and a portion of me changing that is that I can't stand when my identity is tied down to something material or something pointless, like a mustache. Mustache is so pointless, but people would call me the stash. I have cornhole jerseys where the back of it just says stash, and that's funny. It's cool and all. And I'm not, saying I hate the mustache now, and, because it was part of my identity, I'm just going to get rid of it, because I know that other things are part of my identity, but not many material things. And, but I want my identity to be wrapped up in things that are important, things that are purposeful, things that are inspiring, motivational. I want my identity to be wrapped up in, faith, fitness, sobriety, vulnerability, things that are true, things that are wholesome. And I'm not saying a mustache is such a bad thing to have connected to my identity. I'm sure my tattoos are part of my identity, and I'm sure that my fitness is part of my identity, and things that, maybe don't serve too much purpose, but they are a part of our identity. But that's just part of the reason I like to switch things up, and that's why the mustache is no longer. So thank you for that. I am Drew Breeze says, my dogs, Charlie and Patsy. Yeah, yeah, my dog's over here sleeping on the couch. She takes about a dozen naps a day, and I love her so much. I think my girlfriend loves my dog more than I love her. I don't know how. I rescued Soul when she was 10 months old, and she's nearly, no, about 6.5 years old now, and she's just a perfect dog. She's really perfect. She runs with me off leash. I can take her anywhere, and she's waking up now because I'm talking about her. But she's incredible, and dogs are man's best friend. They're so easy to get along with. They remind me a lot of God's grace that we spoke about earlier. They love you no matter what, no matter how bad you feel. And people that are bad to their dogs, I cannot stand it. I can't stand it. But what I'm trying to say is, before I get upset, is that their dogs still love them, and that's just kind of a real representation of God and us, how bad we are to God sometimes, and He still loves us. And our dogs are the same way. They truly have unconditional love for us. And so, I am Drew Brees putting Charlie and Patsy in here. So I'm glad you have them, sir or ma'am. I'm guessing, sir. I haven't even looked at your profile. I am Drew Brees. But yeah, dogs are incredible. They are incredible. All right. TFU11_ says, a healthy body, it's way too easy to neglect and take for granted. Take care of yourself. Yeah, absolutely. It's so important to be fit. Somewhere in the Bible it says your body is a temple, and that's referring to taking care of it, keeping it clean, being in shape, being sturdy, having a steady foundation. And that's all really important. And like TFU is saying here, it's easy to take for granted and neglect. And I think in this day and age, we're seeing a lot of that. And it's something that I pray about a lot, just hoping that people will come to fitness, that will understand how important it can be to have a strong body, a healthy body, not only for yourselves, but to fight for your loved ones, to give an example to younger people. All these things are really important, and they're rooted in fitness and taking care of yourself and being healthy. So, yeah, really like that. Ghastly Glam says, sobriety, therapy, and being able-bodied and healthy enough to run. Yeah, a lot of people in here, not surprised with my crowd, that healthy body, and being able to run is something that's in here commonly. But first here, Ghastly Glam says sobriety and therapy. Yeah, wow. And we all receive therapy in different ways. A lot of mine is in the Word, on the trail, when I run, some breath work, some sauna time. Like, these are all things that I find therapeutic. But if maybe she, I think it's a she by the profile picture, yeah, and is talking about real mental health therapy where you see a therapist or something like that. My girlfriend just volunteered at equine therapy, so horse therapy. There's so many different things that we can do, and maybe it's physical therapy. I mean, there's so much stuff, but therapy is so important, and finding what works for you therapeutically is also very important. So yeah, I really like this comment here. This response, therapy is so important in finding what helps you, and that may take some time. I know many people go through multiple different therapists usually, and I think that's really smart. I don't think you should be tied down to one certain type of therapy. So keep searching, folks, and find what helps you with your mental and physical health. And yeah, she says here, sobriety. Yeah, of course, this is huge for me. I'm approaching 2 years in August, and I spent a lot of time drinking since I was about 14 years old. Sobriety is something you can't explain to somebody unless they've also experienced it. How powerful it is, how powerful it makes you feel as a human being. Not that you're better than other people, but that you're in control of yourself. You're better than you used to be is where I find a lot of power in sobriety, that something else had control over my emotions, over whether that was having to drink to celebrate, whether I was happy, whether I was sad, whether I was angry, whether I was depressed. Drinking for me was used as a coping mechanism for those negative things, and then also used to be happy and celebrate. And so I was never being able to experience anything as myself 100% because I was using an external agent, the alcohol. And sometimes I've used some drugs too in the past, not much, but I have, to be transparent. But these things were masking what was 100% my own experience. You know, they were taking away from my mental headspace and making things blurry, and that's not what I want. So yeah, sobriety is so important to have a clear head. You're able to accomplish so much more once you learn how to get through some of these tough emotions or tough times without an external agent at all. So yeah, thank you for that. A couple more. Forged Iron Davis says, to be able to move, to be able to teach my daughter to run and love Christ. Yeah, I really think this is important, is being able to teach the young generation. I don't have children, but I have a nephew, and he just ran his first 5K the other day. And I'm not saying that I am the reason that he ran that 5K, but I hope that me running has maybe given him some inspiration and, you know, shown him how great it can be to run, to move, to be fit. So to be able to teach our children healthy habits in this day and age is so important, because there are a lot of unhealthy habits that are being promoted and really, you know, publicly glamorized. And, you know, what we just spoke about, drinking is one of those, and partying, and you know, fast food is something that is advertised to these people at a young age with, you get a toy if you get fast food. You know, that's something to promote children to eat something that we know is unhealthy for them, yet it's convenient, so we do it anyways. So Forged Iron Davis saying here, you know, being able to teach my daughter to run and love Christ. Yeah, like I said, just nailing down on how important it is to be the example and to set the standard to the younger generation, whether that be our kids or the kids around you, or even, you know, somebody younger than you. Setting the example is so important with healthy habits. So thank you for that. Last but not least, Just Junk Miles. I am grateful for God allowing me to break generational strongholds and my family. Yeah, breaking generational strongholds. And these come in all forms and fashion. One of mine was drinking. And just to, I mean, I know I'm kind of hammering on this, but it's just a lot in here. I realized at one point in my sobriety that, looking at my family tree, I was the only one that I could even think of that was sober. Here's an appearance of Soul, my dog. Hi, Soul. Say hi to the people. Yeah. I was the only one in my family tree that I could even think of that doesn't drink. And I looked at that as kind of what Just Junk Miles is saying here, a generational stronghold, breaking the chain, you know, something that has occurred in my family for as long as I know personally. And there could be somebody back in that tree, or somebody that I'm forgetting that maybe was sober, but if I can't name them, then that means, you know, somebody like my nephew definitely doesn't know who they are. And so who's going to set the example when he has questions? I'm just laughing at Soul. Sorry, she's funny backing up right there. Who's going to be able to answer questions if someday my nephew grows up and he wants to know what it's like to not drink? Maybe he's around it a lot and he doesn't know who to go to. Well, now I feel confident that I'm somebody that can provide lived experience for him. So breaking generational strongholds, whatever that could be, whether it's addiction or maybe it's a business that's really not doing that well. I don't know what it could be, but this is what I think of when I see this. And then Just Junk Miles says, and my family. Yeah, of course, we touched on family a little bit earlier, how important it is, and how sometimes we need to reel ourselves back into our family, and myself included sometimes. So yeah, just appreciate everybody here for all their responses. We'll do this again next week. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. This is Sunday. I'm going to have it uploaded today. Most people probably listen tomorrow, but that's all right. A nice short little episode on Grateful Sunday. And once again, folks, just thanks for tuning into the Made New Project. Just trying to find what makes us new in this life and how we are all just a project working on ourselves consistently over and over again, sometimes failing, sometimes breaking down, but building back. And it's important to just know that the project is never done. Never done. You're never finished. You're never too old. You're never too broken. There's always something that we can build upon. And so find those things and become made new in this life through the word of Christ, through sobriety, through fitness, through painting, through chess, through whatever it is, folks. But that's the whole point of the show and the name behind it. So thank you guys once again for tuning in. If you guys are looking for us on any social media, we are on YouTube, The Made New Project, Spotify, The Made New Project, Instagram, The Made New Project, and I think I just finished a Facebook page, The Made New Project. So there might not be anybody on there, but we'll get some stuff up on there. So thank you guys once again. I really appreciate it, and I hope you've had a great Sunday, or you are about to start your next week. You've got a whole new week, folks, a fresh slate. So go out there and crush it. It's going to be amazing. And this next week, we're going to have my buddy Graz on the show, and we are going to do a little bit of a Mid-State Mile, an upcoming race. We're going to do a little bit of a preview, predictions, and talk about the race this week. So look out for that episode. Hopefully, I'm shooting for Thursday. So Thursday upload for that. Thank you guys once again. I'm Dylan Ledbetter. This is the Made New Project. Out.